In the quiet, unassuming town of Villisca, Iowa, sits a house that holds one of America's most chilling and brutal secrets. On a cold June night in 1912, this home became the scene of a horrific crime. 8 people, including 6 children, were murdered in their beds with an axe. The killer was never found, and the crime remains unsolved to this day, leaving a permanent scar on the town and a dark, heavy energy lingering within the walls of the house. Today, the Villisca Axe Murder House is considered one of the most haunted locations in the United States, a place where the past refuses to rest. The story begins on June 9, 1912. The Moore family, Josiah, Sarah, and their 4 children, Herman, Catherine, Boyd, and Paul, had just returned from an evening at the Presbyterian church. 2 young friends of the children, Lena and Ina Stillinger, were spending the night. It was a typical, peaceful evening, but by the next morning, the house had turned into a slaughterhouse. A neighbor, concerned when the house remained unusually still, discovered the gruesome scene. Every person inside had been bludgeoned to death. The mirrors in the house were covered with cloths, and a piece of bacon was left near the axe, adding bizarre layers to an already baffling mystery. The investigation was extensive, but it led nowhere. Suspects were questioned, trials were held, but no one was ever convicted. The town was left in a state of fear and suspicion, and the house on 508 East 2nd Street was left with the echoes of that terrible night. For years, the house passed through different owners, many of whom reported strange and unsettling occurrences. It was eventually restored to its 1912 condition and opened to the public for tours and overnight stays, attracting paranormal investigators and thrill seekers from all over the world. And that's when the stories really began to pour in. The reports are not just whispers in the dark. They are consistent, numerous, and profoundly disturbing. The most common claims are the sounds of disembodied children's voices. Visitors often hear faint giggles, whispers, and sometimes even clear words echoing through the hallways, particularly from the children's bedroom upstairs. Some have captured electronic voice phenomena, or EVPs, of children asking questions like, "What's your name?" or simply saying, "Play with me." Toys left in the children's room are known to move on their own. Balls roll across the floor, dolls are found in different positions, and a small toy train sometimes chugs along its track with no one touching it. It's as if the spirits of the children are still there, forever trapped in their final moments, reaching out to the living in the only way they know how. Many guests have reported a sense of deep sadness and despair in this room, a feeling so overwhelming it brings them to tears. But the activity isn't limited to childish games. It often takes a much more sinister turn. One of the most terrifying phenomena is the violent slamming of doors. The closet door in the parents' bedroom is notorious for swinging open and shut with incredible force. People have been standing right next to it when it happens, with no rational explanation, like a draft or a person nearby. It's a sudden, aggressive act that seems designed to frighten anyone who dares to enter. This intensity isn't just auditory, it's physical. Guests staying overnight have reported being pushed, scratched, and even pinched by an unseen force. Some have felt a chilling sensation of being watched from the moment they step inside, a heavy pressure that follows them from room to room. The attic, in particular, is said to be a hub of dark energy. This is where investigators believe the killer may have hidden, waiting for the family to fall asleep. People who venture up there report feeling an overwhelming sense of dread and pure evil. They describe seeing dark, shadowy figures darting in the corners of their vision and hearing deep, guttural growls that seem to come from nowhere. The master bedroom, where Josiah and Sarah Moore were found, carries its own unique brand of horror. The energy here is described as heavy and oppressive. Lights flicker on and off, and cold spots appear and disappear in an instant. Some have even seen the indentation of a body on the bed, as if someone is still lying there. Investigators using thermal cameras have captured inexplicable heat signatures and cold masses moving through the room. One of the most unsettling legends associated with the house is the story of the falling axe. On a few occasions, an axe propped against a wall has been found lying flat on the floor hours later, as if it was dropped. It's a chilling reminder of the weapon that took 8 lives and sealed the home's tragic fate. The paranormal activity at Villisca seems to be intelligent and interactive. During EVP sessions, investigators have asked questions and received direct, relevant responses. When asked who killed you, a faint whisper of a name has sometimes been recorded, though it's often unclear. The spirits seem aware of the living, sometimes mimicking their actions or responding to their presence. This house is not just a collection of random spooky events. It feels like a place where the veil between our world and the next is incredibly thin. The tragedy of 1912 didn't just end lives. It created a powerful, emotional imprint that has soaked into the very foundation of the building. The unresolved nature of the crime, the innocence of the victims, and the sheer brutality of the act have combined to create a paranormal storm that has raged for over a century. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, the sheer volume of consistent documented experiences at the Villisca Axe Murder House is hard to ignore. It stands as a grim monument to a family destroyed and a community shattered. The spirits, whether they are the restless souls of the Moore family or something else drawn to the tragedy, continue to make their presence known, ensuring that the horror of that night is never forgotten. But the dark history of America is filled with places where spirits linger, bound by tragedy and time. While Villisca holds the echoes of a brutal, unsolved crime, our next journey takes us south, to a sun-drenched plantation where the beautiful, ornate mirrors are said to be more than just reflections. They are prisons, holding the trapped souls of a family caught in a web of poison and revenge. The story of their torment is just as chilling, and their pleas from beyond the glass are waiting to be heard. Join us next time as we explore the haunted mirrors of the Myrtles Plantation. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to follow for more tales from the shadows. Welcome, ghost hunters and history buffs, to a place where the veil between worlds is terrifyingly thin. This isn't just any old house. This is the Myrtles Plantation, often called one of America's most haunted homes. Nestled under a canopy of ancient oaks draped in Spanish moss, the air here is heavy, thick with stories that refuse to die. As fog rolls across the grounds, it feels like the spirits themselves are reaching out, inviting us in. Our journey begins at the heart of the home's paranormal activity, a simple, elegant mirror hanging in the foyer. But this is no ordinary mirror. It's a looking glass that reflects more than just your image. It reflects a history soaked in sorrow and a legacy of unrest. They say if you stare long enough, you won't be the only one looking back. The most famous spirit said to wander these halls is a woman named Chloe. The legend, though debated by historians, is a chilling one. Chloe was an enslaved woman, owned by Judge Clark Woodruff and his wife, Sarah. One day, the story goes, she was caught eavesdropping on a private conversation. As punishment, the judge had one of her ears cut off. To hide her disfigurement, Chloe began wearing a green turban, which has since become her spectral trademark. Desperate to win back her master's favor, Chloe devised a plan. She baked a birthday cake for the judge's eldest daughter, but she added a secret ingredient. a small amount of oleander leaves, which she believed would only make the family sick, allowing her to nurse them back to health and become a hero. But her plan went horribly wrong. The poison was far more potent than she imagined. The judge was away on business, but his wife, Sarah, and their 2 young daughters ate the cake. They fell violently ill, and within days, both children were dead. Consumed by guilt and terror, Chloe confessed to her fellow enslaved people, hoping for sympathy. Instead, they feared the judge's wrath would fall upon all of them. In the dead of night, they dragged Chloe from her quarters and hanged her from a tree on the property. Her body was then weighted down and thrown into the nearby Mississippi River. To this day, visitors report seeing a figure in a green turban peering from windows or appearing in photographs, a sorrowful phantom forever tied to the site of her tragic mistake. Now, let's return to that mirror in the hallway. This isn't just a piece of furniture. It's a paranormal artifact with a dark history. Purchased in 1980, the mirror arrived with a strange story. The previous owner claimed it was haunted by the spirits of a woman and her children. When it was brought to the Myrtles, the strange activity only intensified. The mirror is believed to hold the spirits of Sarah Woodruff and her 2 children who died from the poisoned cake. According to tradition, mirrors were covered after a death to prevent the souls of the deceased from becoming trapped inside, but this mirror, tragically, was overlooked. Guests and staff have reported seeing grimy child-sized handprints appearing on the glass, even moments after it has been cleaned. Sometimes, they say, faint figures can be seen within its depths, the ghostly faces of the Woodruff children, forever captured in their final moments, looking out at a world they were forced to leave behind. But Chloe and the Woodruffs are not the only spirits here. The Myrtles holds the memory of another violent death. In 1871, a man named William Winter was living at the plantation. He was a lawyer who had moved his family there after the Civil War. One evening, a stranger rode up to the house and called him out onto the porch. As Winter stood there, the stranger shot him. Mortally wounded, William Winter staggered back into the house, desperately trying to reach his wife on the 2nd floor. He only made it as far as the 17th step of the grand staircase, before collapsing and dying in her arms. To this day, the sound of phantom footsteps can be heard, slowly and painfully climbing those stairs. A ghostly reenactment of a man's final, agonizing journey. Tour guides and visitors often stop and listen, and many claim to have heard the heavy, dragging footsteps echo in the silence. A chilling reminder of the tragedy that unfolded right on that spot. The chorus of ghosts at the Myrtles doesn't end there. The plantation seems to be a magnet for lingering souls. Look up at the French window pane near the front door. Some have seen the spectral figure of a young girl with long, curly hair staring out from it, her face pressed against the glass. This is believed to be the ghost of a girl who died on the plantation in the 1860s. Her spirit is said to be forever waiting for a loved one who never returned. In the main parlor, a grand piano sometimes plays by itself. The tune is always the same, a melancholy, disjointed melody that floats through the house late at night when no one is around. Staff will come in the morning to find the piano's keyboard cover mysteriously open. And perhaps the oldest and most profound spiritual energy comes from the very ground the house is built on. It's believed that the Myrtles was constructed directly on top of an ancient Tunica Indian burial ground, disturbing sacred land and perhaps awakening spirits far older than the house itself. This could explain the deep, unsettling feeling that permeates the entire estate. Even today, the paranormal encounters continue, making the Myrtles a living, breathing, haunted house. Countless guests who have braved a night stay have stories to tell. People report being tucked into bed by unseen hands, or having their clothes and hair gently tugged by an invisible presence. Beds shake in the middle of the night, and furniture is found moved to different spots in the morning. Cold spots drift through rooms, and the distinct smell of perfume wafts through the air, with no apparent source. Some guests have even heard faint, disembodied voices whispering apologies in the dead of night, perhaps the eternal penance of the sorrowful Chloe. These aren't just old legends. They are modern experiences, happening to real people, all contributing to the plantation's formidable reputation. As dusk settles over the Myrtles Plantation, the shadows lengthen, and the moss-draped oaks look more like skeletal fingers reaching for the house. The stories of Chloe, the Woodruff children, William Winter, and the countless other spirits seem to hang in the humid Louisiana air. This place is a tapestry of history, tragedy, and the unexplained. It challenges our understanding of life and death, leaving us to wonder what really happens when we're gone. The question isn't whether the Myrtles is haunted, but by how many. So, I leave you with this. Knowing what you know now, would you be brave enough to stay the night? Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into the paranormal, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more spooky stories. Have you ever felt a place watching you? Not just the feeling of being watched, but the sense that the very walls, the floors, the air itself, holds its breath and observes your every move. Tonight, we journey to a place steeped in history and sorrow. A place consistently ranked as one of America's most haunted homes, the Myrtles Plantation in St. Francisville, Louisiana. As daylight fades and the Spanish moss hanging from the ancient live oaks transforms into skeletal fingers, the plantation reveals its true, spectral nature. The grand, sprawling estate, with its iconic 125-foot veranda, seems to pull the shadows closer, wrapping itself in a blanket of darkness and secrets. This isn't just a historic site. It's a stage where the past refuses to rest, and the spirits of those who lived and died here still wander, their stories echoing through the long, lonely nights. Join us, if you dare, as we step across the threshold and into the heart of the haunting. Built in 1796, the Myrtles Plantation has been the site of countless tragedies. Its history is a dark tapestry woven with threads of betrayal, sickness, and violence. It's said that at least 10 murders have occurred on the property, though historical records only confirm one. But it's the unconfirmed, the whispered legends, that give the plantation its chilling reputation. The most famous of these is the story of Chloe, an enslaved woman owned by the Woodruff family. Legend says she was caught eavesdropping on private conversations. As punishment, her master, Clark Woodruff, had one of her ears cut off. To hide the disfigurement, she began wearing a green turban, seeking to win back her master's favor. Chloe baked a birthday cake for his eldest daughter, but she added a small amount of oleander leaves, a local poison, intending only to make the family mildly ill so she could nurse them back to health and be seen as a hero. But her plan went horribly wrong. The poison was far more potent than she realized. Woodruff's wife, Sarah, and 2 of their 3 children ate the cake and died in agony. The other enslaved people, fearing their master's wrath would fall upon them all, reportedly took matters into their own hands, hanging Chloe from a tree and throwing her body into the Mississippi River. To this day, visitors report seeing a woman in a green turban wandering the grounds, her sorrowful spirit forever tied to the site of her tragic mistake. Is Chloe still here, seeking forgiveness for an act of desperation that ended in disaster? Many believe she is, her presence a constant, sorrowful reminder of the plantation's dark past. But Chloe is far from the only spirit said to roam the Myrtles. One of the most active and unnerving sources of paranormal phenomena is a large, ornate mirror hanging in the main foyer. This isn't just any antique. It's a spirit mirror. Purchased in 1980, the mirror is believed to have been part of the original house furnishings. Shortly after it was reinstalled, strange things began to happen. Guests and staff alike have reported seeing figures moving within its reflection, figures that aren't actually in the room. Handprints, small and childlike, frequently appear on the glass, even after it's been thoroughly cleaned. The most disturbing claims are that the mirror holds the trapped spirits of Sarah Woodruff and her 2 children who died from the poisoned cake. People staring into its depths have seen their own reflections distort into grotesque masks, or witnessed the faint, ghostly images of a woman and children, their faces etched with eternal sadness. They seem to look out from another time, another dimension, their spectral forms sometimes appearing to walk right through the walls behind them. Imagine standing there, watching your own face change, while the ghostly remnants of a 200-year-old tragedy materialized right beside you. It's a terrifying thought, and for many who have visited the Myrtles, it's a terrifying reality. The house itself seems to be alive, a living entity that shifts and changes. Overnight guests staying in the main house have reported some of the most unsettling experiences. They describe a house that seems to actively play tricks on them. Doors that were locked are found wide open. Doors that were open are found firmly shut. Some have even witnessed a door appearing on a blank section of wall, only to vanish moments later. The grand staircase is a particular hotspot for activity. Countless people have heard the heavy, phantom footsteps of someone descending the stairs, only to find no one there. The sound is often described as slow and deliberate, the thump, thump, thump of a man's boots on the old wood. This is often attributed to the ghost of William Drew Winter, a lawyer who lived at the Myrtles in the 1870s. Winter was shot on the veranda by a stranger. Mortally wounded, he staggered back into the house, crying out for his wife, and collapsed, dying on the 17th step of the grand staircase. His final, agonizing journey is said to be replayed over and over again. Guests staying in the room where he died have reported being woken in the middle of the night by the sounds of his labored breathing and painful moans, a spectral death scene forever imprinted on the atmosphere of the house. As if disembodied footsteps and shifting architecture weren't enough, there are the children, the spirits of the Woodruff children, who died from the poisoned cake, are said to be some of the most active entities in the plantation. Unlike the sorrowful presence of their mother in the mirror, the children are said to be playful, mischievous, and sometimes downright unnerving. Guests have reported hearing the sounds of children giggling and running through the hallways late at night. The distinct sound of a ball bouncing down the stairs has been heard on numerous occasions. Some have even felt the sensation of a small child tugging on their clothes or jumping on their bed while they sleep. One of the most frequent reports comes from the rough and sterling room. People sleeping in this room often wake up to the feeling of being watched, only to see the faint outline of a small girl standing at the foot of their bed. She doesn't speak, she doesn't move, she just stands there, observing them with an unnerving stillness before fading away. Are these the innocent spirits of children who don't understand they've passed on, forever playing in their former home? Or is it something else? A residual energy of joy and tragedy forever locked in a loop? Then there is the Night Watcher. This is perhaps the most chilling and personal of all the reported phenomena at the Myrtles. It's an experience that leaves even the most hardened skeptics shaken. Numerous guests, staying in various rooms throughout the plantation, have reported waking from a deep sleep with a sudden, overwhelming sense of dread. Their eyes open to find a tall, dark figure standing over their bed. It's described as a silhouette, a man-shaped void with no discernible features, except for one terrifying detail: glowing, malevolent eyes. The figure just stands there, silently, a sentinel of the night, watching them. Paralyzed with fear, the witnesses can do nothing but stare back, their hearts pounding in their chests. After what feels like an eternity, the figure will either slowly fade into the darkness, or turn and walk away, its footsteps echoing unnaturally in the silent room and down the empty hall. Who is this spectral guardian? Is it the spirit of a former overseer, still making his rounds? Is it Clark Woodruff, the master of the house, checking on his domain? Or is it a more ancient, darker entity, drawn to the plantation by the centuries of pain and suffering? No one knows for sure, but the consistency of the reports is deeply unsettling. It's one thing to hear a strange noise or see a fleeting shadow. It's another thing entirely to wake up and find a silent, glowing-eyed specter looming over you in the dead of night. Beyond the main house, the grounds of the Myrtles are just as haunted. The old slave quarters, the general store, and even the ponds hold their own dark secrets. Visitors have captured photographs with strange anomalies, from orbs of light to full-bodied apparitions peering from behind trees. Electronic voice phenomena, or EVP sessions, have recorded disembodied voices whispering names, answering questions, and issuing warnings. One of the most famous photographs taken on the property is the Chloe picture, taken by a previous owner in 1992 for insurance purposes. The photo appears to show a translucent, human-like figure standing between two of the buildings. The figure seems to match the description of Chloe, complete with what looks like a turban on her head. While skeptics have tried to debunk it as a trick of light or a double exposure, believers hold it up as definitive proof of the plantation's hauntings. Another spectral resident is said to be the ghost of a Confederate soldier, seen wandering near a small pond on the property, a place now known as the Soldier's Pond. The sheer volume and variety of paranormal claims are staggering. It's as if the land itself is saturated with spiritual energy, a place where the veil between our world and the next is impossibly thin. Every corner of the Myrtles Plantation seems to have a story, and every story seems to have a ghost attached to it. So, what is it about the Myrtles that makes it such a paranormal magnet? Is it the violent history? The land itself? Or is it simply the power of suggestion, a legend that has grown so large it feeds on the fear and expectation of its visitors? Whatever the cause, the experiences reported are too numerous and too consistent to be dismissed entirely. From the sorrowful woman in the green turban and the children trapped in the mirror, to the dying man on the stairs and the terrifying night watcher, the Myrtles Plantation is a place where the past is not dead. It's not even past. The spirits here are not just faint echoes. They are active participants in the nightly drama of the house. They interact with the living, making their presence known in ways that are impossible to ignore. They creak the floors, they whisper in the dark, they appear in mirrors and at the foot of your bed. They remind us that we are just temporary guests in a home that has belonged to them for centuries. The sun may rise and banish the shadows for a time, but as night returns, so do they. The spirits of the Myrtles grow stronger in the darkness, and they are always waiting. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the shadows of the Myrtles Plantation. The stories and spirits of this place are a chilling reminder that some locations are forever marked by the tragedies that occurred there. If you enjoyed this dark tale and want to explore more of the world's most haunted places, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss where we're going next. Leave a comment below if you've ever had a paranormal experience, or if you'd be brave enough to spend a night at the Myrtles. Have you ever wondered what the most haunted place in America is? While there are many contenders, one name always rises to the top: Waverly Hills Sanatorium in Louisville, Kentucky. Today, we're going to journey into the dark history and chilling legends of this infamous location. But be warned, what you're about to hear is not for the faint of heart. Waverly Hills wasn't always a place of fear. It began its life in the early 20th century, a humble two-story wooden building designed to house just 40 to 50 tuberculosis patients. Back then, tuberculosis, or the White Plague, was a terrifying epidemic with no known cure. The only treatment was fresh air, good nutrition, and rest. The sanatorium was built on a high hill, surrounded by fresh air, making it seem like the perfect place for healing. But the epidemic was relentless. Louisville's tuberculosis problems spiraled out of control, and soon, the small wooden hospital was overwhelmed. A much larger, more imposing structure was needed. Construction on the massive 5-story Gothic-style building we know today began in 1924 and was completed in 1926. This new Waverly Hills could house over 400 patients, a state-of-the-art facility for its time, designed to fight the devastating plague. For years, it served as a beacon of hope. Doctors and nurses worked tirelessly, experimenting with new, often brutal, treatments. One of the most common was pneumothorax, a procedure that involved collapsing a lung to let it rest and heal. It was painful, and not always successful. In more extreme cases, surgeons would remove ribs and muscles in a procedure called thoracoplasty to allow the lung to expand further. These were desperate measures for a desperate time. Despite their best efforts, the death toll was staggering. It's estimated that tens of thousands of people died within these walls. The sheer number of deaths created a grim problem: how to transport the deceased from the hospital without alarming the living patients, whose morale was already fragile. Their solution has become one of Waverly's most infamous features: the body chute. This wasn't some kind of slide for the dead, as some legends claim. It was a 500-foot-long tunnel, originally built to transport supplies up the steep hill to the sanatorium. But as the death toll mounted, it was repurposed. The bodies of the deceased were lowered down to the bottom of the hill via a motorized rail and cart system, where they were discreetly picked up by hearses. Imagine the psychological weight of that tunnel, a passage once for supplies, now for the departed. It's no wonder it's considered one of the most active paranormal hotspots on the property. In 1943, a breakthrough changed everything. Streptomycin, the first effective antibiotic for tuberculosis, was discovered. The need for sanatoriums began to dwindle. By 1961, with TB largely under control, Waverly Hills Sanatorium closed its doors for the first time. But its story didn't end there. A year later, in 1962, the building was reopened as Woodhaven Geriatric Center, a nursing home for the elderly, many of whom suffered from dementia and mobility issues. Unfortunately, Woodhaven's history is just as dark, if not darker. The facility was plagued by rumors of patient mistreatment and horrific neglect. Understaffed and underfunded, the conditions were reportedly appalling. Finally, after 2 decades of scandal and investigation, the state shut it down for good in 1982. Since then, the massive building has stood silent and abandoned, decaying on its lonely hill. Its windows are shattered, its walls covered in graffiti, a perfect picture of a haunted place. And that's when the ghost stories really took off. Over the years, Waverly Hills has earned its reputation as a paranormal investigator's dream, or nightmare. Countless visitors, from professional ghost hunters to curious tourists, have reported a wide range of unexplainable phenomena. Let's start with the most famous resident spirit, a little boy named Timmy. He's often seen and heard playing on the 3rd floor, which used to be the children's ward. Visitors report seeing a small, shadowy figure darting around the hallways. Many bring balls or toys to leave for him, and some claim to have seen the balls move on their own, or have even heard a child's laughter echoing in the empty rooms. It is a bittersweet story, the spirit of a child forever playing in the place where his life likely ended. Then there's the 5th floor. This area housed the mentally ill tuberculosis patients, and was also where the most experimental and invasive surgeries took place. It's here that the atmosphere feels heaviest, and the stories are the most terrifying. 2 nurses are said to haunt this floor. One is a nurse who, according to legend, took her own life in room 502. The story goes that she was unmarried, pregnant, and contracted tuberculosis. In her despair, she hanged herself from a light fixture. People have reported seeing a figure in a nurse's uniform in the window of room 502, and have captured EVP's electronic voice phenomena of a woman's voice saying things like "get out." The other nurse's story is just as tragic. She is said to have fallen or been pushed from the roof patio on the same floor. Today, people on ghost tours often report seeing shadow figures moving across the rooftop, a fleeting glimpse of a tragedy that may have occurred decades ago. Shadow people are one of the most common sightings at Waverly Hills. These dark, human-shaped figures are seen all over the building, darting down corridors, peeking around corners, and sometimes just standing and watching from the end of a long, dark hallway. One of the most frequently seen is a tall, slender figure, often referred to as the creeper. This entity is said to crawl along the floors and up the walls, a truly unsettling sight that has been reported by dozens of witnesses. Besides visual apparitions, the sounds of Waverly are just as spooky. Disembodied voices, screams, and moans are heard throughout the building. Doors slam shut on their own, even when there's no wind. The sounds of a rattling gurney are sometimes heard in the morgue, and footsteps echo in empty hallways when everyone is standing still. Some visitors even report being touched, pushed, or having their hair pulled by an unseen force. Of course, we can't forget the body chute. The 500-foot tunnel is a major focus of any investigation. People report feeling an overwhelming sense of sadness and dread inside. They hear voices whispering in the dark and see strange lights and fleeting shadows. It's as if the residual energy of all the sorrow and death that passed through it is permanently imprinted on the tunnel itself. So, is Waverly Hills truly haunted? Is it the residual energy of thousands of souls who suffered and died there? Are they the intelligent spirits of patients and staff, forever bound to the building? Or is it all just the product of an overactive imagination in a creepy, decaying old hospital? The building's architecture certainly helps set the mood. The long, echoing corridors, the peeling paint, the empty rooms, it's a place that feels haunted even in broad daylight. Your mind can easily play tricks on you in such an environment. A gust of wind becomes a slamming door, a scurrying rat becomes a shadow figure. But the sheer volume and consistency of the paranormal reports at Waverly Hills are hard to dismiss entirely. For decades, people from all walks of life with no connection to each other have reported seeing and hearing the same things. A boy named Timmy, a nurse in room 502, shadow figures in the halls, and disembodied voices in the body chute. Today, the current owners are working to preserve and restore this historic landmark. They offer guided tours, both historical and paranormal, allowing the public to experience this incredible place for themselves. Whether you're a skeptic or a true believer, a visit to Waverly Hills is an unforgettable experience. It's a journey back in time, a memorial to the thousands who fought the White Plague, and a chilling exploration of the unknown. What do you think? Have you ever been to Waverly Hills or another haunted location? Share your stories and theories in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into one of America's most haunted places. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more explorations into the mysterious and the unknown. We'll see you in the next one.